International news, President Vladimir Putin of Russia will today interact with the foreign media as part of the year-end review. Well, Putin has had a frosty relation with some of the world leaders, while he has also had strong relations with the BRICS and some leaders in Asia. To get more on this, we now cross live to Moscow and speak with Ross Cullen. Very good morning to you, Ross. Essentially, let's just start with the development in the U.S. Has there been any reaction from the Kremlin after Congress in the U.S. impeached Donald Trump?
Well, hi, Shante. Of course, the Kremlin not saying they're going to react, doesn't want to interfere in the internal workings of another country. Of course, that is exactly what the Democrats in the United States say is happening, that Russia has been interfering in the internal workings of the US internal political network, in the administration of the Trump government, and the impeachment yesterday, of course, is likely to come up. We are going to have questions here in the conference hall. You can see the queue of journalists behind me waiting to enter the hall where President Putin is going to be taking questions starting in about an hour's time, and he will go on for about 3 to 4 hours. These are usually lengthy conference sessions taking all manner of questions, and the one that you ask about President Trump is likely to come up at some point. He's going to be taking questions from the local media, from domestic media here in Russia, and of course as well from foreign journalists.
You know, Russia also seems to have strengthened its relations with Africa. What could be some of the main reasons for this move?
That is likely to be another question that comes up. Of course, we saw in October the first ever Russia-Africa summit with leaders from more than 40 countries across the continent coming here to Russia, hosted by President Putin, down in the Black Sea resort of Sochi for 2 days of meetings, for an economic forum, for a political summit, for lots of bilateral meetings as well with President Putin and different leaders. For example, with President Ramaphosa of South Africa, there were chances for discussions about investment, looking for partnership deals, and also to reaffirm and strengthen those relationships. Of course, the Soviet Union had a strong relationship with many of the African nations throughout the 70s and 80s in their struggles for independence and in the post-colonial era, and this chance to set the new tone of these Russia-Africa summits, set for every 3 years, was kicked off by President Putin this year in October. So we are likely to see perhaps a follow-up question or two about that Africa summit. What are his plans when it comes to 2020 to follow up on some of those investment deals, to follow up on some of those discussions that he had with presidents from across the continent.
Now, Ross, President Putin has also been seen recently with the Chinese President Xi Jinping. Is this possibly playing at political dividends?
Well, the two nations have been growing closer, there's no doubt about it. But when you look at them economically, they are not partners at all. It's an unequal relationship if you're looking at the economy side of it. Beijing's economy far outweighs the size of Moscow's, but they have been growing closer with the pipeline, the Power of Siberia, that was inaugurated at the start of this month, a 3,000-kilometre long pipeline bringing natural gas for the next 30 years from Russia into China. They've also been conducting a closer relationship when it comes to the military there. We've seen joint air patrols between the two armed forces from Russia and China as well taking place this year, and the two presidents themselves on a personal level, President Xi and President Putin, have a close relationship. They are often seen in an amicable setting, making each other ice cream or dumplings and trying to promote the fact that they have a close relationship and they offer something different from a US unipolar world. Both presidents subscribe to the idea that they would like to further this idea of a multipolar world, not just dominated by the US, but where Russia and China can offer different outlets as well and different policy ideas to the world.
Thank you very much, Ross Cullen for SABC News. We'll leave it there with a huge media frenzy as a backdrop, as President Vladimir Putin of Russia is set to interact with some of the foreign media as part of the year-end review.